Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast, guys. I am your host, as always, guys, Coach Steve. We have another exciting, fun episode for you guys today. We are getting into our positional previews for the month of July here. We're going to be starting with quarterback. Our co-host, Tyler and other Steve aren't with us today. They're dealing with some technical issues, but I did have a fantastic guest on today's show. Jason Davin, what is going on, my friend? How are you today?
Not too shabby. Luckily, the one in the heat and not into all the horrible weather that's going on in Houston and pretty much everybody down there, because that looks rough. Yeah,
it definitely is. I'll deal with some heat up in New Jersey any day than anything that they're going through. So Coach Tyler's done that, but he's okay. Thanks for joining on today's show. Like I said, we're going to have a fun episode for you guys today. We're talking quarterbacks. We're kind of going to talk through some 4 different tiers or so quarterbacks, whether they're early tier, mid tier, late. We're going to kind of just discuss a little bit, not into too much detail, but kind of where some players are kind of better values, worse values from taking them in the early rounds, kind of give you kind of breakdown on, what kind of way you should go, which way you should maybe think to go when taking quarterbacks. And if you're in your Scott Fish Bowl right now, I don't know, Jason, are you in your Scott Fish Bowl? I know you said you're done with it already. You're excited to be over with it.
Nah, I love that it does so much good for the community and everything else, but I don't care who you're drafting in the second round. It's such a long draft. I'm very curious to see how all the teams look at the end of it, but it's just so much, man. And the different scoring types, it's a lot, and it's really the only thing going on in football right now. So it's definitely overflowing when it comes to the timeline. It's definitely the main topic, and so just seeing it every time I refresh, it's like, okay, cool.
It's going to be like that, fortunately, for the next week or so. So get used to it. But yeah, it's all good and fun. Honestly, I didn't even look at the scoring until this morning. So it was fun. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I got to do. So hopefully you guys have a great draft. And it's obviously for really great calls. Anyone who's doing a live draft, I'm very jealous. So because did one last year and that was pretty fun. So. But let's get into our topic today, guys. Again, news-wise, there's not much going on in the football world. People are away. Training camps don't start for another month. I'd recommend watching the Hard Knocks, though. I don't know, Jason, if you started watching the Giants when it comes out tomorrow, the next episode, but I enjoyed that so far.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting. It makes me really think of if one of us was running it. That kind of is what it looks like. It's like, this is kind of what we need, right? We could build a team around this.
It made me feel like I could do this job, to be honest. I could do this. Come on, let me give me a chance in an office. Some NFL team, please give me a chance. I feel like you could do this, but
yeah, it can't be that hard.
It can't be that hard. No, it's just millions and millions and billions of dollars just floating around trying to.
It's monopoly money. Nobody really matters. It's pay them what they're worth. If you don't think they're worth it, then don't pay them.
Exactly. That's the best way to see it. So if you haven't watched it, tune into it. It's pretty good. So, all right. So let's get into our main topic today. Like I said, guys, we are talking quarterback previews here, and we're going to start with the early round quarterbacks. And obviously, these are quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds. That's kind of what I'm calling early round quarterbacks. Players that, some people could argue that why would you take any of these quarterbacks that early, or any quarterback in the first 5 rounds? But, in that early round 2 to 3 range, you have that Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Pat Mahomes. In the 4 to 5 round range, you have the Lamar Jacksons, CJ Strouds, Anthony Richardsons, and Joe Burrows. And all this is based off mostly ADP. It's not my own preference when they should be going, but it's based off what ADP is telling us right now for these quarterbacks. So Jason, I'll let you start it off here. I kind of gave you a little hint with the content doc, but out of these quarterbacks, who is the value you like the best, or you would prefer to take if you had to in any of these players?
You're clearly looking at Josh Allen. Last year, I think he only had 3 games where he didn't score 20 or more points. And so when you have somebody that gives you that solid rushing floor and is the guy that, rushes in for touchdowns and takes away touchdowns from any of the other players, it makes it more enticing. Him and Hurts definitely make a lot of sense. but it's just so expensive, man. At the price point, you're really paying up for a quality quarterback. I kind of get it. If you're in a super flex, you're probably taking him in the first round. These are like all players that you're probably taking that first round, maybe even second, depending on if you do two quarterbacks early or not. But it's so pricey because of all the players that you're missing out on in these rounds that I'm hoping these get a little bit further down the list, but it's hard to get to that a lot of times. People are just so antsy about not getting that quarterback that they want so badly. And so even if Josh Allen falls to the third, I mean, it's a pretty good value. He continues to put up a lot of points because he is that Konami code quarterback where he is rushing a lot. And so, and I think he's in the past 4 years, he's only had 1 year where he wasn't a top 3 quarterback. So that's another good selling point for him.
It definitely helps that his division is not very good. He's usually thrives pretty well against most of his division players. So, but yeah, another guy I kind of really, if I was going to target quarterback early, I think I lean Mahomes personally. I feel like he's just the safest possible player in either of these, two categories here. He got the upgrade at wide receiver. He's got a lot more weapons on this offense now. Whether or not you believe in those weapons are a different story, but I think he just gives this offense, a more versatile approach to throwing the ball a little bit, where he didn't really have that last year, or the talent level to really trust to throw the ball downfield deep. And that's kind of what this offense has been missing to some extent since Tyreek Hill's gone. You've had the Travis Kelce over the middle. You've had the short game with Rishi Rice this past season here, but MVS and company weren't really doing the job. Now you have Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy. You have guys that are going to help Pat Mahomes be a little bit more, hopefully back to what we saw 2 years ago, where he was just thriving in fantasy football compared to he had 17 fantasy points this week. That's not Pat Mahomes. That happened way too often, unfortunately, in 23. But, this year it should be kind of back to normal for Patrick Mahomes. So he should be able to bounce back. And if you're looking for a quarterback early and you want that safe approach, for me, I think he makes the most sense.
Yeah. Now, if you're going crazy, you're looking at the rookies here. Second year. Rookies last year, second year this year. But CJ Stroud is definitely the guy who just got an upgrade with Diggs coming in, going to be more of over the center. They had Robert Woods last year, kind of trying to fill that in. Metu as another player. But they add Diggs. They still have Dell. They just paid Collins. They added Joe Mixon in the backfield. It makes it very interesting to see how strong this offense is going to be with a more solidified team. I mean, you have a lot of superstars that I think went kind of under the radar last year. I was a big Nico guy last year, and Dell has me worried because he's a heck of a player and is continuing to grow with CJ Stroud. And if these two can pull it off again, that could be somebody that has a lot of potential upside in that later round.
Yeah, no, I that's another good one, especially in that 4 or 5 range, because I feel like a lot of the quarterbacks in that range, the Jackson, Richardson, and Burrow, there's like a big upside, obviously, to their names there, but the durability, for me is a big concern. Burrow, people say like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. He still has been hurt many times throughout his career. So is Lamar Jackson. Anthony Richardson, we really don't know, and that one, that he could be somewhat of a league winner, but it's also like, does he play 17 games this season? He played 4 and then he got hurt. So it's like that was coming in from the college levels. That was one of the issues, that durability for him to be on the field. And he proved that could be true, that he could have some durability issues. So CJ Stroud, yeah, I like that, Jason. Like it makes the most sense. I wish there was some rushing floor to him a little bit more, but the amount of weapons that he has, I mean, there's no reason why he can't throw for 35, for 100 yards, 4,000 yards, and 35 touchdowns. Like, there should be no reason why he can't do it unless defenses really just figure him out and he just falls apart, which would be like one of the biggest collapse I think a lot of people would not be expecting in fantasy this year. But in this range, Jason, is there anyone that truly concerns you that you would not actually take if you had to in these first 5 rounds?
I mean, you touched on it with Joe Burrow. That O-line is getting a little better. It's still just, he hasn't really had a solid season where he's played every game, and I felt a whole lot of confidence with him. I mean, at least Jackson's kind of done that. All the rest of them have had full seasons, except for, well, clearly the rookie and Anthony Richardson. But Richardson still has that rushing floor, which gives him even more upside, while Burrow is more forced to run than anything else. And we also don't know if well, we kind of do. I guess Higgins will be sticking around, but it's still that question mark is there whether they're going to keep T and they already got rid of Tyler Boyd and they have Jermaine Burton as the rookie coming in. They don't have Mixon anymore. The backfield is going to be a mess. Who's going to be protecting him? There's a lot of question marks that have me more worried for Burrow than anybody else on the list.
Yeah, no, I agree with that there, to be honest. Like the passing game, the receivers, the talent that's there is great, but like, you know, does this offense struggle to run the ball, and does that impact the offense in a total? You know, Joe Burrow does very good at times, but there's no run game, there's no balance. The defenses are going to kind of key on Joe Burrow to force him to make quick throws. If not, you know, that there's going to be sacks there to happen, because that offensive line had struggled a lot last year, which would cause injury to him last year. And it's probably going to be the same this year. They didn't really make much of a change at the offensive line to really say that they made major improvements. And then one last player to talk about in this range here, because we know neither one of us mentioned him, and is Jalen Hurts. You know, last year we obviously saw Jalen Hurts start off like fantastic, and at times near the end of the season, especially in the fantasy playoffs, he kind of left us wanting more. To some extent there, you know, how do you feel about Jalen Hurts? Obviously, we know that, you know, Jason Kelsey is not there anymore. You have Saquon Barkley, a bigger back who can handle that goal line work there. Do you have concerns with Jalen Hurts as that top player still?
I mean, yes and no. We've kind of seen how when you kind of take it out of his hands, it could be an issue. But I'm really guessing they're going to continue with the brotherly shove, keep going with him, getting that 1-2 yards pretty easily. I am kind of hoping that they do take that a little bit, but even then, I think he had 15 rushing touchdowns last year. You take that even down to 9, that's still a lot of points really that you're racking up for not passing it. It's just you yourself getting an additional 6 points, and that's big in fantasy. So, it's hard to get away from somebody who scores really over. If you score over 7 rushing touchdowns, you're probably going to be a top 12 quarterback. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Essentially, you had to be really bad if you didn't at least do that. So yeah, no, I get it there. Yeah, I mean, you should expect a decrease in rushing touchdowns, like Jason just said. It's going to happen. You know, there's not many times that a quarterback's going to have back to back, you know, rushing touchdowns like that. You know, in a season there was a reason you bring in Saquon Barkley to kind of have that more do threat ability. And yeah, they're going to use the touch push. They're going to use it. It might not be as frequently now because, you know, you lose one of the best centers of all times, but you still have a well-built center that can do it for you, and it's going to be used at times in their offense there. So you should be pretty happy with him overall. Just that this offense struggled under the OC last year, and hopefully the change at OC with Kellen Moore now there, you know, that will hopefully change a little bit in this offense. So hopefully giving him more ability to throw the ball, do things. You know, I know in mini camps they were talking about how they felt more free in the offense compared to what they were given last year. So
yeah, and I mean they still have superstar wide receivers, and just adding Saquon to that mix as a pass catcher can definitely even give them a little boost as well. So might not have the O-line that they used to, but the guy coming in is going to be just fine. He's moving from, I think, left guard to center, and so he should be just fine protecting Hurts still the same and creating just the biggest holes.
Of course. Now, just real quick question. I have it on the screen here. You know, do you usually target quarterbacks early in a 1-quarterback league? Is that something you go down the road with, or you just
no? I'm a bargain trapper, man.
Right.
I like getting the guys late. It's just so easy.
That's okay. I love it.
Really, I start looking at. I've filled out my roster, so you're looking 9, 10 is kind of my sweet spot. 1 quarterback, I just that you're just losing some many potential points with the wide receivers here. It's still wide receivers, running backs, depending on what kind of theory you go with or whatever. It's really just determined by not just best available, but also the players that you think have the most upside. I mean,
right.
I like looking for the values, and so at quarterback, it's usually late because everybody's got their one. maybe even their second, and they've given up top 20, 30 pick that could have been.
Skill position, something more.
You're looking at, okay, you take Mahomes, the people around him in PPR are Mark Andrews, Keenan Allen, Dalton Kincaid, Josh Jacobs, Jaden Reed, Calvin Ridley. I mean, and that's what he was in PPR. He's going 51. So of them, at that point, I'm probably going to take Reed or Ridley. They both have a lot of upside. I'm more confident in Ridley for sure, just because of the change for him and him potentially being getting a little bit of a boost on an offense that's completely changing as well. So that's going to be another interesting test to see what the viability of the Titans are going to be. So with the loss of Henry and the coaching change, it's going to be a good time to see.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I remember when I got Mahomes before he broke out, like in the 12th or 13th round. It was from one year I actually won the championship. That was nice. But yeah, I mean, targeting quarterbacks is, again, there's a guy or two here that are like, if you have them on your team, there might be a difference. They might make a difference, but in the most part, you're losing out on value at other positions that you could have that advantage. And I think when we talk about these next two tiers, there are options there that are more than capable of handling the work production for your fantasy team that these guys also given you. So, all right, so let's go into our next tier, the high mid-round quarterbacks. And this is rounds, 6 to 8, but there is no round 6 or round 7 quarterback going at ADP right now. And those round 6 quarterbacks are Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray. Those round 8 quarterbacks are Tua Tagovailoa, Brock Purdy, and Jared Goff here. So now, Jason, of these 6 quarterbacks here, who do you like the best?
I mean, it's unfair because I know you're probably going to go with or not like it, but Kyler Murray and his rushing ability is a big boost here. I know that even if he only played 14 games last year, he still just ran so much, and that's still going to be an identity of this Cardinals offense. And now he actually has a dominant receiver, allegedly. We'll see how it actually plays out for Marvin Harrison. But it's going to be interesting to kind of see how that all works out. And, man, the upside is just there. And, of course, I was a big Trey McBride fan last year. And finally, after Zach Ertz had his injury and got out of the way, he really broke out. And with those two, I really think that can open up the offense with, of course, him being able to run and still having Connor there. That this is going to be a slightly better team. And like I said, if he actually plays 16, 17 games like he's supposed to, top 12 is very easily doable here and should be not an issue for him because of his rushing ability.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like Kyler Murray. I really do. Again, I still have my concerns. Durability for me is still a big concern that he's actually missed time each of the last 2 or 3 seasons here now. Obviously, his best season was in 21, where he had that big rushing floor, and he obviously had that elite weapon in the offense in DeAndre Hopkins. And we're hoping that Marvin Harrison Jr. ends up being that guy. But as a rookie, I still have my concerns that he's going to elevate Kyler Murray to the fullest of his potential. That's something that I still kind of shakes me a little bit for fantasy football in round 6. It's fine because the upside is there, the rushing ability, and hopefully he continues that. But the amount of weapons that help Kyler Murray kind of take it to that next level, I'm still want to see it first, unfortunately. But yeah, a guy I still really do like in these ranges here, and it's just based off value per se. I still like Jared Goff a lot in round 8. I do believe that this offense is they're going to run the ball. Let's not get that wrong. They have 2 elite, very good running backs on that offense in Detroit there, but the offense is growing. It's going to expand here. You have players going into the next year of their development with Sam Laporta, and hopeful breakout is Jameson Williams. That hopefully that will help elevate this offense a little bit. Jared Goff kind of got stuck a little bit at times with the amount of rushing touchdowns that these running backs had. I believe it was 17 of 18 games that one of those 2 running backs had a rushing touchdown in those games. So it definitely lost Jared Goff some touchdowns there, especially when they both score over 10 rushing touchdowns in the season here. I don't think we've seen too many times where you're going to get 2 running backs to rush for double-digit touchdowns in one season here. So Jared Goff, I do like the value he offers in round 8 because I feel like he can still potentially – his ceiling isn't probably top 3, but could he still finish as a top 6, 7 quarterback? I still think that's possible with this offense that's surrounding him. They're continuing to grow and develop. Ben Johnson is a fantastic OC, and this is a team where they're like almost playing in a dome every single week. So the weather elements are not there to worry about, and Jared Goff is going to get himself, I think, a nice boost with his new contract extension.
Yeah, I mean, again, the issue is just, does their defense actually get better, which they kind of look like they're trying to do, and taking them having to score, it has really been boosting up his numbers. And so if they don't have to do that as much and they're able to kind of control the clock and run the ball, makes me a little more nervous for Goff. But yeah, I mean, he's still continuing to do a lot of work and be a cheap option for you for sure.
Yeah.
I guess from there, the guy I'd be looking at is the first one on the list with Jordan Love as well. I mean, talk about a guy with fully loaded weapons, and now he no longer has Aaron Jones back there. And so does that mean he's going to have to throw more? I mean, that's another option. I'm just curious if that's somebody you're looking at. I mean, again, Dak is in a boot currently. Not quite sure what the extent of that is, but it'll be interesting to kind of see how this all ends up breaking down. But I think Love is another interesting name. He's going a little high for me, but with just that offense and how well they did last year, I'm keeping an eye on it for sure.
Yeah, no, Love is someone that I like a lot. I have him a lot in Dynasty and places, but this coming season, I mean, we're hoping that we get the Love, of the second half of the season where he was at an 18-3 touchdown interception ratio compared to the 12-8 he had in the first half of the season here. Again, that was his first full season. We'll have to see if defenses kind of catch up and try to find ways to stop him from doing too much. But I do believe the addition of Josh Jacobs can help maybe balance this offense a little bit more where they didn't really have that. I mean, you saw near the end half of the season when Aaron Jones was somewhat healthy, I guess, at that point, he was doing really good. So that they have a running back for the entire season who can run the ball to take pressure off the passing game here, that actually might benefit Jordan Love in the long run here this coming season here. So, I do like him. Yeah, round 6 is a little early for a guy who was probably going in round 14, maybe undrafted last year. But unfortunately, that's just the way football works in our days. So, now who's somebody on this list here, Jason, that kind of scares you a little bit? Someone you try to probably avoid if you had to, if they were in that range.
Well, I mean, it really, again, nothing against him at all, but Brock Purdy has all these great weapons, but that's a team that wants to get up and run with Chris McCaffrey. Last year, I think you could bet on him every week to score a touchdown, and you would have made a bunch of money with that. And I think he had 15 or 16 weeks in a row where from last year to this year that he scored a touchdown, and it wasn't until like that week 15 or 16 that he didn't score, and people were so upset. But even then, I'm pretty sure he put up like 15 points for you, and people were upset with that. I'm like, he's a star on the team. Brock really doesn't have to do anything but occasionally pass it to any one of the superstars who are going to make big plays and get them down the field. And their defense started to step up there towards the end as well. It's when you just have to manage, having that upside, it really gets you capped, because this is a team that they don't want to have to blow you out. They can put it up very quickly and then just coast. They're fine running with whoever they have. And so we've seen it every year that, it just kind of how they've been running their team recently. So it's very interesting to kind of see. But like I said, his upside is very capped. He might have 1 or 2 really big weeks, but it's going to be tough to determine when that's going to be.
Yeah, he's been so efficient in his like limited amount of attempts that he's thrown the ball and the touchdowns he's able to get there. I can't wait like 2 years from now to see like but this offense changed. The older players are out. They're not in San Fran anymore. If Brock Purdy can still like elevate this team there, or has it really been truly just a game manager? Unfortunately, he's just doing a very good job as a game manager, or can he really elevate this team here? So yeah, he definitely concerns me a little bit too. Another guy that does concern me is Tua, and that's where his round 8 value for me, unfortunately. Like, I'm a big Dolphins fan, and I hate to say it about Tua, but this is fantasy football. This is not the Miami Dolphins, unfortunately. But like, there's concerns, obviously. You know, the one thing is that Tua just plays so poor against this division. He's a terrible fantasy player against his division here, and in general, like the games at this back half of the season, especially for the Dolphins schedule this year, there's a lot of tough games here, and we've known, again, whether or not it's an actual thing or not, it's shown it. But Tua just can't seem to handle big-time defenses, and especially in the cold weather late in the season. And Miami has a very similar schedule like that again this year, where they play in the cold and they play very tough opponents at the end of the season here. So, like, yeah, it's great to have them for the first 8 weeks of the season where they're playing their easier opponents and you love and life there. But when it comes down to crunch time and you're spending a round 8 pick for Tua Tagovailoa, for me, I think I'm going to avoid him unless he falls into the double digits, because I really don't want to take – I love the upside, but the floor is not there for me to really want to trust him right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has stars around him, which also make it kind of more terrifying, right? Because you saw kind of Achane and Mostert and whoever decided to run the ball. Tyreek Hill clearly can do whatever he wants at any point when he's healthy. And so it's them being able to just hand it off and be able to get 30, 40 yards from that and a touchdown. And then they get up on you and you're able to just run at the clock. It's a similar idea to kind of, I mean, Brock Purdy, like
right.
they explode early and then they just run it down your throat until you either catch up and make them throw, or, I mean, the game's over.
Right.
So
yeah, the only good graces is that the Dolphins had 20 plus rushing touchdowns last year. So maybe you see a little bit more passing touchdowns. The rushing drops, the passing kind of increase out. That would be hopefully the saving grace for Tua this coming season, that maybe makes my words wrong, where he ends up being worth that rate at round 8 value right now that he's going in ADP. So, all right, over to the next tier of quarterbacks here. We got the late middle rounds. These quarterbacks are all ADP in round 10 for some reason. I don't know why, but that's just round 10 seems to be a time where everyone's like, it's time to get my quarterback now. These are the quarterbacks that are just flying off the board. You have two, well, not two. I think I missed to take him off there. But Jaden Daniels, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, Kirk Cousins, and Matthew Stafford here. So, Jason, out of this group, who's someone that you really like to draft here that you'll be drafting, since you like these Brown quarterbacks?
I mean, I've already kind of been doing it, and it's really Jaden Daniels. I actually have him. I did my projections. He's a top 12 quarterback for me. Again, another rushing floor guy. The fact that he has all these really solid weapons around him, and I'm just very curious to see what they end up doing in Washington. But I think this is a good guy to build around. They took, of course, the Chargers running back, Austin Eckler, who I think is really going to benefit a young QB. Specifically, he'll give him that protection. He'll give him a kind of a safety blanket to really help out there. And then, I mean, I'm very curious to see how, Terry McLaurin actually does. I mean, he's been a dominant wide receiver one, even with all these random quarterbacks that they've thrown out there. And that's not including Romeo Dobbs. And like, they have all these very talented people surrounding this player. And so if they actually decide, I mean, again, we saw Sam Howell do just fine last year because he had to throw. Even when you're down, you're having to throw. This guy can do both. And so I'm very curious, and his upside is just, I probably have him ranked at his upside, but the fact that it's even an option as somebody that you can get in round 10, this is probably somebody I'm going to pair with, like you kind of said, with like a Jared Goff. Yeah. I mean, you get two guys relatively late, or honestly, if we stay on the same list, the guy that I always boost every year is Kirk Cousins. Dude only has like one season outside of the top 12 in the past 10 years. It's stupid. So, So you pair those two together and you're able to just kind of cruise with somebody who's more stable. And then if Jaden pops off, you are able to keep him. If he can't do anything, you drop him and you don't have to worry about it too much.
Yeah, no. I unfortunately I like Jaden Daniels a lot in this range here because I feel like he presents the most upside for fantasy football, especially with his rushing ability. But like you said, he can throw the ball. One of the best deep ball throwers in college coming out this past season here, and he has the weapon to do it. The defense is in a rebuild right now where they're not an elite defense just yet, and it will probably involve the offense having to play more and throw the ball or run the ball more as much as possible to find a way to get points on the board. So, yeah, Jaden Daniels in this round is really good. Caleb Williams is another one that, again, I think at this point the value makes more sense if you really wanted to wait and you're in this rookie fever. And I'm not saying I'm not the biggest Caleb Williams fan personally, but the offense that's surrounding him is very good. Obviously, he's got probably one of the best three trios in football currently right now with a solid tight end, a really strong run game. If he can just, again, play like a Brock Purdy style and at least manage the game, he has potential to do really well in his first season to have a QB1 upside, that's really possible. And you're getting him in that round 10 range. The rushing ability isn't what Jaden Daniels is going to offer you, obviously, but the efficiency at passing, which would be hopefully there, is something to look forward to. But again, he comes with his own risks that I personally don't like about him a little bit. But in this round 10 range, there's potential for him to have something good here.
Yeah, I mean, so completely understand that. They also added another weapon, 2 weapons. I mean, they have Keenan Allen now. They also have, of course, Rome Odunze, who we'll kind of see how that works out because it'll a lot of talent there as well. Of course, still having DJ Moore. It's very interesting how these teams have really focused on their offenses, and we'll just see if their defense can do anything to kind of slow the roll. If not, they're going to having to throw a lot, and so that's kind of what you're looking for anyway in fantasy, right? You want a quarterback that has to throw. That could be good or bad if depending on how bad you get in trouble for interceptions and fumbles. So
that's true. That's true. So Jason, tell me about a player in this range here that you would probably avoid if you had to, even though it's late round 10, it can't be terrible, but someone that you're down on this season per se.
Mostly it's because it bit me last year. I was pretty high on Trevor Lawrence last year. I had him again top 12. Thought with Calvin Ridley coming in, I really thought that offense would change, and it just it's really focused on ETN, and I'm nervous that they're going to get anything done really. I don't see any big changes that are going to benefit that offense a whole lot, and so just makes me nervous. I mean, last year he didn't look super. The growth that you kind of expected him to have has kind of just plateaued. And so when you have somebody as solid as a runner as Etienne is, it's kind of hard or difficult to get away from him. So
yeah,
that's kind of my big warning sign right now. I see a lot of red flags around him, so I'm probably going to stick away from that.
Yeah,
how about you?
Yeah, no, I get that because Trevor Lawrence, unfortunately, what he needs to do is just show more consistency on the field. But are the weapons the best fit for his potential this year? I don't know. I'm still torn on Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis, the additions, like Christian Kirk. But that was something big. That consistency for Trevor Lawrence has just not been there. He's been up and down so often in his career, where it's just like, which one am I going to get for a portion of 3 or 4 weeks? I don't know, and that's a concern for me. To me, it's Kirk Cousins. The late season Achilles injury here, we don't see it too often here, and I feel like the offense has a lot of stars, but do we know if they're actually stars or not yet still? We love Kyle Pitts, the upside that Kyle Pitts offers, but is he truly a difference maker for Kirk Cousins? Is Drake London truly a difference maker at wide receiver still? There's question marks with him. Yeah, he has 900 yards back-to-back seasons with terrible quarterback play. That's really great. Garrett Wilson did that too, but he had 1,100 yards and 1,300 yards one season. Is Drake London truly a wide receiver 1, or is he a really strong wide receiver 2 that's playing as a wide receiver 1 right now? So those things like that, and especially the injury, is he going to come back and be the same guy again? He doesn't need to use his legs, obviously, to that extent there. But for me, I think I'd rather let somebody else take that one. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if I'm right, it's no sweat on my bone. Cool, I didn't draft him. I don't have to worry about them.
Yeah,
So.
one of the things that really makes me laugh about Kirk Cousins and his ADP is the fact that everybody is drafting London and Pitts so high,
Yeah.
but then Kirk Cousins is way down at like 18. Like the math isn't working for me. And so people are like, oh, yeah, they're going to be, top 12 players. I'm like, are they? Based on your rankings, shouldn't then Kirk Cousins be QB 8? Like, how are you getting to this number? So it's definitely interesting to kind of see how that's going to end up shaking. And of course, him having Bijan Robinson, they liked to run the ball last year. Granted, they got rid of the main issue with that, but we'll see how this offense ends up working now with both Robinson. I mean, he's just a beast, man. He's going to tear up so many. They start passing to him more. I mean, that's one thing you can say about Kirk is if he's going to get it, it's going to be pretty close to your hands. Like he's not going to miss you by a whole lot. So it's not the balls that you're used to seeing. So that could be one thing that the one thing that you're really buying into on the Falcons is actually Bijan Robinson, because that short area target and Cousins being accurate thrower can really boost any number of players. And so whoever he ends up locking on is going to be a star for that team for sure.
100% sure. Yeah. I love it. So let's before we move on, talk about Justin Herbert. What do you think of Justin Herbert this season? Obviously, we know new offense, more of a run first approach with the coaching, offensive coordinator theories and schemes, and the lack of a talented or at least experienced talented wide receiver on the team.
Killing me.
How do you feel about Herbert this season?
All right, as a Chargers guy, I mean, it's difficult because you're kind of, you saw Patrick Mahomes do all this talent with very little. I mean, he did just fine. He had Kelsey as kind of the anchor. This team has brought in Hayden Hurst, which isn't quite the same, but he is somebody. They also brought in DJ Shark, which again, not quite sure how useful that's going to be. It's going to be close. I think you actually end up taking over QJ, but Quentin Johnson is somebody I'm way off on. But the one guy who was completely stable last year, pretty much in every game, was Josh Palmer. And so that's the one somebody I'm way too high on. I have him as a top 12 wide receiver just because he was the one consistent for Herbert. Why everybody's going with Ladd, who rookie coming in, super talented. Again, it's going to be very interesting. This is supposed to be a run heavy offense with the new coach. We'll see how this actually works out. I'm very hesitant when it comes to new coaches because I've been through it for what feels like forever now and constantly changing coaches. So if Harbaugh can really kind of right the ship, it seems like he's kind of doing that. However, I hate the running backs that he brought in with a passion because they can't stay healthy. So we'll see if that's actually their plan or not. It really could go either way, but I really think he's going to be right in the middle. I mean, this is a decent value here. I don't think I have him in my top 12. Let me double check.
I think I have him at 12
barely.
at the moment.
I have him at 12. Yeah.
Yeah, I moved him down recently.
Barely hanging on there.
Yeah. I guess I did a recent article on the Chargers, or it's in the process of being published. But are they going to stick to their old ways, like what they did back in San Fran, where they were bottom 3 in pass attempts, passer rate in 4 seasons in San Fran? Like, if that's the case, there, I don't. Like, Justin Herbert is not going to rush for 700 yards. Like, he might rush for 400, 500 maybe this season. He might have a career high in rushing yards. But is he going to make a difference where, you looked at Colin Kaepernick for a couple of years where he used his rushing ability and Greg Roman with Lamar Jackson, that rushing ability? Herbert could run, but I don't know if he can run enough to make up the difference in how this offense is run. But again, they might change everything up there. But in this round, it's not terrible. I think it's good. It's like a solid, here, her get you 17, 18 points most weeks. And I think he's a good pairing to pair with Jaden Daniels. If you can see them back-to-back rounds, 10 and 11, I know it's probably not the most, greatest thing to go back-to-back quarterbacks, but like it gives you a high upside, maybe a floor play each week. You have something there with that combo like that. So,
yeah, it's again, I'm very curious to see how this shakes out, as I am every year when it comes to Chargers doing what they do, and charging. But it will be an experiment that I'm hopeful for. We'll see. Right. I have to see how Harbaugh does. He has a very strong culture, and if that's the case, this could actually end up being a good thing. I just, again, really hit the running backs he's brought in. I mean, that we have a good O-line that is going to be healthy. We have a center. We'll see how that ends up working. And then what I'm actually super excited for, which, again, nobody cares, but Darius Davis, when it comes to the new kickoff rules, is somebody that you might, you're in Scott Fishbowl, that is something that you get now is return yards. Might be somebody that you end up taking later as that kind of explosive player. He did run one back last year, so
he is. I did like him. I liked him coming out. He was a little fast guy. I wish he ended up in a better situation, but maybe this is the year for him. So, especially in the kick return. So, good Scott Fishbowl analysis there.
Just throwing in the little things,
Of course,
that's what people really care about, right?
Of course. That's all that matters right now, Scott Fish. All right, so let's get over to the late round quarterbacks, and this is that rounds 11 through 13. You have Rodgers, Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson, Geno Smith, Will Levis, and then you have the 14 plus if you really just don't give a shit about quarterbacks, and you got the Derek Carr, Bryce Youngs, Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, the Vikings quarterbacks. That half might be more super flex, but Jason, in these late rounds here, and you're, again, I don't know why, unless you completely just tank quarterback, you don't really care. And a bunch of your league mates already draft two of them, because at some leagues they do that. They have to have two quarterbacks in their roster. Is there anyone in these late rounds that you're willing to take your shot on?
I mean, I might as well just keep getting bit, but Daniel Jones has that rushing ability. He has a bunch of weapons that if they could just stay healthy, there's potential there. But it seems like every year more and more people are getting hurt, and I've been a big Wan'Dale Robinson guy. I think that's a good option for him. It's just it's really dependent on that. I wish I could say Aaron Rodgers, because that's the easy answer, right? He has all the new weapons. He's coming back. We'll see how healthy. I mean, he should be good to go. He hurt himself in this first 3 plays. So seeing how he works out as a Jet. But we kind of touched on it earlier. You're chasing upside here. It's going to be Will Levis. I mean, It's a different coaching style. They're not going to have Henry. We'll kind of see how it all plays out. They're trying to see if this is going to be the gunslinger that they want him to be. So if you're shooting upside, that's kind of where you're probably looking here. And at this point, why not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if you're really waiting this long, and again, these are probably better Superflex QB2s, obviously, but some people, they like to wait. Will Levis obviously makes a ton of sense. A lot of weapon upgrades, new offense that favors the passing game, something the Titans haven't had in years. Again, I'd be interested in Geno Smith to some extent. I know last year wasn't so great, but the offensive coordinator changing to what it is now with the weapons that he has to offer him in that offense, he seems like he's kind of being slept on, because obviously no one's really taking him seriously in fantasy right now. But if that offense kind of starts clicking and all those wide receivers start getting around with the ball, Geno could end up kind of bouncing back a little bit. I don't really have much faith in guys like Deshaun Watson per se, or Baker Mayfield to do it again under the new offensive coordinator changes. I'm not a big Bryce Young guy. I don't think Russell Wilson is going to have a revival of his career in Pittsburgh, unfortunately.
Well, even then, he's fighting with.
He might not even start.
Yeah, we'll actually see if him or Justin Fields.
Yeah, I should have just wrote Steelers QBs.
Yeah, I was like, you had Vikings. Why not just do Steelers too? But
yeah, I should have.
And I mean, if you believe any of the hype, you look at the new Madden, and they're showing Justin Fields returning kicks. So if you're doing that, you might as well roll it out at that point.
If he starts returning in kicks, I don't know what's left with fantasy football at that point. You pick him up, you have a backup quarterback who's getting points off not even starting. Oh man, people will be going nuts right now. So,
Well,
all right.
they want to run the ball, so they keep having success doing it, and so Tomlin likes to win, and he does it. Continues to do it. Blows me away every year.
Absolutely. All right. So before we get going, we're going to talk quickly about Superflex because obviously a lot of people play in Superflex nowadays. It's pretty obviously common and everything like that. But Jason, do you have any strategy in Superflex that you like to go with? Do you take 2 quarterbacks back to back? Do you wait on both? Do you take one early, one late? What do you like to do usually?
It's pretty similar. I always like to do what they call the hero RB strategy. I do that with the same thing here. Get that quarterback that you can start every week, and then have 2 or 3 that you're able to kind of have that upside with. So you're going 2 or 3 rounds without a quarterback, and then you're able to pick up somebody like Jaden Daniels or Will Levis, or these guys who have all that upside while you still have that consistency of Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes, whoever you get in that first round, because first round you're pretty much guaranteed you almost always have to go with a quarterback in super flex league. So
no, that's true. And that's kind of what I do too, guys. I mean, I definitely take quarterback early, and my strategy kind of depends on how the draft goes. Really, I mean, if someone falls to me that I'm like, oh, I can't pass up on that potential there, like I'll take a second quarterback. But like kind of like Jason said, I like to wait a little bit on quarterback and see if I can get some more value at other positions, and then grab one of those upside quarterbacks or 2, or a floor guy that can offer like a Stafford that can offer you the floor at QB2, but like then go and getting a Will Levis who has that upside there to mix with like a Allen or Mahomes or whatever. Like that's a perfect scenario there because you're getting value at other positions as well as instead of taking a second quarterback early. So I guess that kind of answers my question here of, is there any low-end QB2s, QB3s that are sleepers? I mean, Will Levis. I mean, Daniel Jones is going late. You like Daniel Jones a little bit to bounce back. He might be worthwhile in the Scott Fishbowl right now if he can stay healthy for 17 games or on the field at least.
If you're watching Hard Knocks, again, we'll bring it right back full circle here. Yeah. They're building around Daniel Jones. So that's kind of, I guess, a spoiler, but man, that's where they decided to put their money. So we'll see if that ends up being what they actually plan to do and how that works out. Because again, has a nice rushing floor. He continually goes over 200-300 yards. I mean, you're adding an extra 0.2 points every game. It adds up. Yeah,
no, absolutely. It definitely does. And again, like I said, I think if you take somebody early, have a floor guy. If you take, don't be scared to take both quarterbacks, like the Minshew's and O'Connell. Take both. Like if you got to take both, take both. If you're going to do it, take both. Things like that, like little things like that. So make sure you have yourself at least 2 quarterbacks in full for most of the season, whether or not you have to deal with the bye weeks and whatnot. So because it's very important in Superflex to have some kind of at least quarterback starting almost every single week, at least 2 if you can.
Yeah, you got to kind of pay attention to that for sure, because bye weeks, they have a couple big bye weeks that are going to end up hurting you if you get the wrong people. So he might end up having to go with a quarterback and a wide receiver just pray that he scores enough points.
Yeah, no, unfortunately so. But yeah, no, that is our quarterback preview, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two, kind of helped you guys out, whether you're doing your Scott Fishbowl now, or if you're waiting until August, obviously, to do your drafts, or maybe you're doing it now like a wild person. Hopefully it helped you out there. Jason, my friend, it's great having you on the show here. If there's anything you want to say, talk to us where you're from, and if you have anything going on content wise, I will give you the floor now, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, we've started it slowly. We'll start releasing, of course, every year, 32 days out. We go day by day. We add a new team on Important Nonsense. But after that starts, once the season starts, come and see me. I'll be live Sunday mornings, Monday nights. Usually we do our waiver wire show, and then Thursday nights as well. I'll be helping you guys set your lineups. So that's kind of my goal, and best I can do to try and help everybody we can. So
Love that. So yes, if you guys aren't already following, please do tune into his content as well. We really appreciate it. So, and of course, thank you all for who tuned in tonight, listening, whether you're listening live on our YouTube channel or if you're listening, on Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, we appreciate it. Oh, as always, next week we'll be doing our running back previews, but we will be doing it on Tuesday night, guys. So if you're thinking that we have a podcast on Monday, it's not happening. We will be hopefully going on Tuesday. And then we'll be continuing this these positional previews for the whole month of July. So we thank you guys for listening. Tune in until next time, everyone, and have a good one.
Back to back is not far-fetched. We got a couple of Clark hands.